And they started this program where kids, and Baruch Hashem, we had almost 40 kids, boys and girls separately. They sat, and every week they watched a whole chunk of a sikha, answered question as they watched it, and really understood it. First of all, I was just fascinated and amazed, and I see this bracha all the time that the Rebbe gives to this generation, and I saw that they were behaving better now than the kids were behaving in front of the Rebbe on the video, and paying attention and listening. But as I was trying to describe to the kids what's going on, I had to hold their head. The Rebbe started speaking, and I think we miss this point all the time when the Rebbe started speaking. And the Rebbe started speaking, it was on Yudches Nissan, Chai Nissan, on the Rebbe's father's birthday, and also his bris. And he opens up with the question. So you get a bunch of questions. And the first question is, what is the connection between Pesach and children? And the Rebbe opens up, and the Rebbe starts the rally by saying, what are we doing here? We always ask the question, what's the connection? And so what's the connection? It's Pesach now. What's the connection between Pesach and children? And that was the question in the paper, which amazingly, the Rebbe answered so clearly, but the kids didn't chap. And I think because we don't chap. You hear this as a typical, right? Typical part of the Rebbe. What's the connection between Pesach and children? The Rebbe finds a connection. Oh! The Rebbe is not making matches. The Rebbe is teaching. I said, we had a whole discussion on the group. Why the kids? The Rebbe answered clearly. What's the connection between Pesach and children? Pesach, and the Rebbe says, I'm always trying to find connections, but the Pesach is the easiest to find the connection. Because you cannot begin Bechlal to start the Seder without the children. You can't start the Avodah Ma'idin, you can't start the Matzah without the children. But the Rebbe is having a whole perspective over here. Something happens in our life. Ask, what are we doing here? The Rebbe is not asking, what's the connection? The Rebbe was, there's been connections. The Rambam today and the Chitas today. It's all connection and all matches. What a beautiful, well-patterned sikha. The Rebbe made a puzzle and took things and made Ashkacha Pratis. Beautiful. The Rebbe was not making a beautiful package. The Rebbe was giving us a perspective in life. A chassid, a bal chai. Sometimes the Rebbe spoke about soldiers. They have a daily mission. Today is different than yesterday. We're not Jews that, okay, it's the week, day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4. Oh, it's Shabbos now, okay. We can take Shabbos walk. Now it's Sunday again. Oh, Pesach arrived. The Rebbe says, Chassidus and Torah is alive. Today is Sunday. What's the Sefer HaMitzvahs today? There's a message today. And the Rebbe asked the kids, what's the message? The 4th day of Pesach. Oh, 1 day Pesach, 2 days, 4 days of Pesach. What's the message today? And the Rebbe starts telling them the story, the kids the story, about the spies, all of a sudden, about the spies of Pari that said, hey, it's day 4. You promised 3 days, let's go back. And they weren't a spal. Not only did they start not running away, they stood up to Pari's spies. They said, we're not in a spal, you think we're free because you're free. And the Rebbe taught children how to stand up to the Yetzer Hara. The Rebbe wasn't just saying a Dvar Torah. The Rebbe is not just saying a good Vart. The Rebbe Pasha is teaching us in each line a perspective on life. And that's what the Rebbe gave us. If I have to say what on Yud Aleph Nissan, being born, the Rebbe wanted us to become Chassidim. Us to become Chassidim. When it came Chav Ches Nissan, and the Rebbe, if you were a shoita and smart simultaneously, and you heard the Sikha of Chav Ches Nissan, you understood exactly what the Rebbe was telling you. People are sitting in the Huizen, and they're screaming out Masai. And the Rebbe just finished saying, if you don't scream out Masai, what it happens? If you would have, the Shulam Shech would come, and I'm done. It was pretty frightening word. So they started screaming at Masai. The truth is, I was always bothered by this video. Because they start screaming at Masai, and 2 seconds later, Masai, Masai. Anyways, they're screaming at Masai, but they heard what the Rebbe just said. And the Rebbe told Rabbi Garari, Loi Noga, V'loi Paga, they just didn't get it. It's very frightening. But perhaps also very posh. Why are you screaming at Masa? Because I asked you to scream at Masa, you still didn't get it. You need to be born. Stop living on oxygen. Stop living on oxygen. Stop living on your mother. I want you to become a Levavitch Chassid. Of course a Chassid the Rebbe. But you to become a Chassid. And then Yud Aleph Nis will be born and Taka become Chassidim. And I couldn't agree more. First of all, what the brachas to our Kinderlach today, we're very proud to announce with the help of Rabbi Gordon and Kama V'chama the children's presence. Where that just to compare it to last year, there was about 4,000 lines of Tanya learned for the Rebbe's Yom Haledes, and about 8,000 lines of Mishnayos, and Baruch Hashem through an amazing campaign and his Oiris for the Rebbe's 117th birthday. Over 9,000 lines of Tanya were learned just in our schools, and over 13,000 lines of Mishnayos. Just start counting lines of Tanya just to put that in perspective. And I think that the kinder sometimes got it, but I think we have to start getting it and start becoming a chassid of the Rebbe. And asking yourself, what's pshat a chassid? A chassidish shayid, ches samach, yud dal, chassidus sheh. We start learning chassidus and understanding the Rebbe's Torah and seeing the Rebbe's perspective. And with that taka, we will earn our own geula. And the Rebbe will take us out of Golos, take me out of
Amen. After you. He wants to talk.
Well, get over it. If we could say that the few things that the Rabbi would always mention, first of all, is the first thing that we mentioned. The Rebbe's, I think, they say it's the Rebbe's most quoted sentence is Toida Miloshen Oida. And that itself, that is the Rebbe's entire quote. As mentioned, just to reiterate a little bit again, and it was so beautiful as I was explaining this, you suddenly start realizing what the Rebbe is saying, that everything and every day, that a chassid's life, it should be extremely, extremely exciting, especially as the Rebbe brings more and more things to life. And that when the Rebbe makes mention of that day's Sefer HaMitzvahs and that day's Chitas, again, it's not a nice connection, a nice puzzle that Rebbe is piecing together, but a real perspective that Toida B'Lashon Ha'ira, and today there's a Ha'ira. Today there's a special Parshas HaShavua, and today is a special Chitas, and today has a special mitzvah. And the Rebbe actually said, because it was the first Siyam, the Rebbe says, the Rambam's message for today. As the Rambam set up a message for that day's inyan. And Mikan, just to pass on to another Moedik inyan, the idea of Hayoim Yoim. So, I'm just going to tell you what happened. When I was in Koil, so I started saying the Hayoim Yoim over there. Unfortunately, there were some cynical folks over there. It got very, very cynical, I should say. And asked me to become older Ufke Clark Lechevra. Now became a minute to say Hayoim Yoim. It's like it's a thing. So I didn't know exactly what the answer punk. I said, it's like, oh, then he said, Mom, something chutzpah, whatever. He said, the Rebbe wrote a calendar in Tafshin Daled. So now all of a sudden became a minute to say it every day. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know the proper reason. I just said the Pasha. I said, well, if just the start, if your father had a calendar and it was something precious to you, whether this is Tamatata, whether exactly when he wrote it, I don't think that is relevant. So I did a little bit of research. I called it a Lipskier's father and a Rabbi Zalix, just to find out a little bit. It was quite amazing. First of all, the famous story. So right away, I think it was Rabbi Zalix told me the famous story where people were pushing into the Rebbe for the Seder. And it was getting very, very pushy because everyone wanted to be near the Rebbe. And the Rebbe taught us what's pshat, near the Rebbe. And the Rebbe all of a sudden started asking, what are the Maimorim that the Rabbeim used to repeat to be Matar the Avir? One Bachar, another Chassid. No one knew. And the Rebbe said, it's a clear Hayoim Yom. What are you pushing into the Seder? A clear Hayoim Yom, you don't know. What are you pushing into the Seder? This wasn't just a frustrating response. The Rebbe said, you want to come close to the Rebbe? I gave you a spilt. We poured everything out. We gave you so much. You want to come close to the Rebbe? I gave you how to come close to the Rebbe. Abi mishtup to the Seder. You don't know a pashta Hayoim Yom. It got stronger. And one time, in Mamash it's not the early Mamash Memtaz, I believe the Rebbe started speaking about Hayoim Yom, that is the Chassid's daily calendar. And every day is connected to that day. And even though sometimes you wonder what's the connection to today, and the Rebbe said, and betach, surely if you will toil, you will see the connection yourself. This year, it came out on a different. I heard one person ask another, why is the Tanya on Wednesday so long? Because the year the Frierdiker made it fell on a Shabbos, because of course on the Ivri years, one day a week is always going to be massive. On a good year it's Shabbos, you have a little bit more time. All the year it's Wednesday. Yeah, because the Rebbe Frierdiker made it was a Shabbos that year. 40 years the Rebbe is teaching us what a Rebbe is, and that's the response. Yeah, because that year in Tafshin Daled, Monday fell out on Parshas this, and the Rebbe made such a comment. And the Rebbe is teaching us what Bechlal being close to the Rebbe is, and what Bechlal Hayoim Yoim is, and the Rebbe said, these fascinating words. And surely, if Chas v'Sholom you miss the day, surely you will pay it back. It's black and white. Fascinating words. If you miss the Hayoim Yom, you will surely pay it back and find your connection. Because every day is mamish connected, not just because of Tafshin Daled. And that's the Rebbe's Hayurah, that Toida B'Lashon Hayurah is a daily message. If we're Takeh Chassidim, you'll be on fire. And you realize that Chassidus is Pashut alive, and Chassidus are so not boring because every day is already a whole new day, a whole new chitas, a whole new mitzvah today, and a whole new message in Hayom they have to live by. I wanted to make it very geschmack to Hayom at the time, and I technically didn't know what to do because I started researching the letters. I think I started working on it to do their background because sometimes you really need to know the context of Hayom. So yeah, they just came out with a beautiful Hayom. Because I had tinus during that whole episode. I had tinus. You just say Hayom, you don't explain him. Stop zakter. So I decided to make it more palatable. I started saying the whole which letter it comes from. But I realized the problem because some say what's the gadlus Hayom? They never took a quote here, a quote there, a quote there. But when you research, you see the gadlus. Sometimes the Rebbe takes something that the letter wasn't B'chlal really talking about. Two-liners. That was the whole point. I felt bad speaking about the background because, in a way, that was the whole Rebbe's chiddush. He picked two lines, it's a sort of almost random lines, to really discuss and elaborate a message for that day. That seemingly the background kind of drowns out the Rebbe's message for that day. And Chassidus is alive, and the Rebbe is alive. And these messages, daily messages for us. I was speaking to the kids, I said, because we were talking about the watching the Rebbe's video, I said, you should know, the Rebbe's talking to you. It was a chas, I think it was Reuven Dunin or something, it was such a moedik of art. He's sitting in Fabring with the guys, and he goes, and the Rebbe told me like this, then the Rebbe told me like that. And he starts with what the Rebbe told him, everyone's imagining this Yechidus. And then he goes, and the Rebbe continued in the Fabringen, and they realized what a chas perspective. The Rebbe is talking to 10,000 people plus the hookups and everything else. And he's sitting by the Fabringen and he says, and the Rebbe told me like this, and the Rebbe told me like that. Like, yeah, who do you think the Rebbe's talking to? Like, the Rebbe once said by Fabringen, we're talking, and everyone's saying, oh, the Rebbe's talking to Yene. So the famous story, the guy goes to the next class and next to him, you hear what the Rebbe's telling you? And you find it all the time where, even in videos, where the Rebbe's Pashat talking to us sometimes. I've heard many stories in Living Torahs. I was once by Rabbi Block in Texas, and he says a fascinating story. This is about 12 years ago. The Living Torah, like a couple of weeks before, was this guy tells the Rebbe, it's all weird living. Guy passes by dollars, and he tells the Rebbe, I'm having nightmares of my father. I think the Rebbe asked him, does he say Kaddish for his father? And he said, we don't know the yard site. So the Rebbe said, so choose a day and make a yard to start saying Kaddish. This was on the Living Torah. A few days later, this guy calls up one of his regular congregants, called Rabbi Block, and he's Pasha shaking. He says, Rabbi Block, the Rebbe saved me. He said, what did the Rebbe save you? He said, you don't understand. He said, my father, I never discuss this because we don't discuss this. He said, my father never took his life. We were so angry at him how he ruined his family and he dropped the kids and he dropped his wife like that. We buried him. We didn't check the date. We didn't check nothing. No Kaddish, no garnish. We decided we're not discussing him. He wrecked the family. And he said, you should know, from that day, he doesn't leave me alone. Doesn't leave me alone. I saw this video. He says, I went to the Beis HaChaim. I looked up the date. I promised my father, I'm going to start saying Kaddish for you. He told her, I heard this mamash first time for our block. He said, last night was the first night I slept peacefully. When Chassidus is alive by us, and the Rebbe is alive by us, and I think, as mentioned, this is where Deir HaShvi begins. This is what the Rebbe was talking about. Bringing the Shekhinah down where it's the toughest time and the training wheels are off. And this is it. And Canal, let's pick it up and start seeing that heading the belt the way the Rebbe that heads it. And not just learning Vertelach and learning up the Maimed or this or that. Take our time. But the Rebbe speaks about Va'ata Tetzava. We're learning the Kibbutz of Yehudim with the Bachar. Va'ata Tetzava, the Rebbe says, what's a Rebbe to the superficial chassidus that we all have? The Rebbe says in the Maimed, a Yid is a Maimin ben Maimin. It's not what Moshe Rabbeinu came to tell us, to become a Maimin. Learn a quick Maimer. The Rebbe's job is that this should become the Pnimius. This should start becoming your life. Tzaddik, as the Friedrich Rebbe quotes, Tzaddik be'emunasa yichid. This should become your life. This is your style. This is what I breathe. My emunah is my life. It's not just Ganva, as the thief asks Hashem to help him. And the Fiddler goes on in the V'Kibul HaYehudim. We're all like that little shtick. We all ask Hashem for things that are not appropriate. We all do shtick. We all teach Hashem good ways how to give us parnasa. We all have good ideas for Hashem how to give us parnasa, or how to busy ourselves, or tell Hashem what we need. And the Rabbeim are here to teach us that Chassidus is real, and Chassidus is alive, to take your time, to let the Rebbe teach you Chassidus, to let the Rebbe teach us perspectives, to become Yud Aleph Nissi, to become born and real Chassidim. Chaim.
Tomorrow we begin a new kapitel, Kuf Yud Ches, and what I'm going to share probably isn't relevant to most people here because most people are positive. I'm a natural cynic. And so when it comes to Kapitel Kuf Yud Ches, just now that's a little closer to Kuf Nun. And so people my age, or a person my age, I can only talk to myself, will naturally start doing the maths. 32 Kapitelach left. And then what? I know that it's not necessarily what everyone wants. I told Reb Chaim Tzvi, I'm not sure I'm the right person to be speaking. And so, of course, these thoughts have come across my mind, and I actually believe it's gone across other people's minds. From time to time, I talk to people from inside the community, and there's room for these sorts of questions. What's going to happen? And yeah, you get the first layer of B'tachon, Emunah, Mashiach, and all that. And once you get past it, you go, yeah, but what's going to happen? The reason why you can ask that is because we actually ask it about most things in our life. B'tachon, but where's the money coming from to pay for Pesach? B'tachon, who's paying the school fees? B'tachon, you lose your job, where are you getting the next job? It's nice to say b'tachon, and it's nice to talk about b'tachon when it comes to Mashiach, because maybe it doesn't really matter. But when it comes to Tachlis, it's very hard to have b'tachon. And so on the one hand, we want to be Makusha, and we are Makusha, and we're sitting here, and it's a beautiful gathering of the community. It's Yud Aleph Nissan. But what's going to happen? And if you're asking that question, there's no answer, number one. And I've come to my own conclusion, just from learning my Morim of the Rabbi, that if you're asking the question, you're coming at everything from the wrong perspective. And so if I'm coming at it with this question, I'm coming at it from the wrong perspective. I'm only coming to share the answer to my own question. So 6 months ago, I'll just quickly shoot myself in the foot. So 6 months ago, at Spirit Grow, we came to this point where there were a number of different issues that all arose in a matter of 6 weeks. They weren't linked. The only thing that linked them was the fact that they all happened within a 6-week period. You know, you have that basic level of Emunah, B'tachon. It'll come good. Something will present itself. One aspect was financial, one aspect was to do with our new building, one aspect was to do with staff, one aspect was to do with an issue, interpersonal issues. It's pretty much everything that a shliach goes through, if you ask me. But it just happened all in the same 6-week period. But it wasn't anything to laugh about or smile about. It was something that quite legitimately, in my opinion, brought me to a very existential question as to whether or not I am a shliach, whether or not shlichus is for me, whether what I'm doing is shlichus, all the big questions. And I had no idea what to do. The first thing was to address anything that might be halachic. So I asked a Rabbi, and I came to this point where we had a dilemma that halakha wasn't presenting an answer. It wasn't really a halakhic question, do this, do that. Because whichever way I would go, I would end up with another problem. And so I was paralyzed. So, and maybe this is why Rabbi Grona asked me to speak. I called him up as the head shliach. I'm not baki in the Rebbe's advice on everything. I try to learn, I try to read, but generally when I need to find something, I don't seem to have learned that area. I don't seem to have a sikha off the cuff that seems to address this issue. So I thought I'll call Rabbi Grona. And after half an hour of talking, it seemed that Rabbi Grona didn't have an answer either. So now I'm really, in Lashon HaMedina, I was really quite stuffed at this point. I wasn't sure what to do. And so Rabbi Grona said, you should write to the Rebbe. Now that was probably what I didn't need to be told. Because I write, send my duch, and I write questions. I do what I need to do. And I told Rabbi Grona, I write and I ask for brachas and I share with the Rebbe what's going on in our shlichus. There's a constant process of connecting through writing. So Rabbi Grona asked me whether or not I open the Idras Kodesh, to which I said, no, I don't. It's not how I've chosen to run my shlichus. It's not something that I'm particularly comfortable with. It works for some. I'm very good friends with another shlich across the road from me, Dudel Leader. He's got stories and the most incredible nisim on, if not a daily, a weekly basis. But that's across the road. It doesn't work for me. Probably because I'm not a maimon like he is. That's what I'd put it down to. So I told Rabbi Grona I wasn't comfortable with this approach, and he said, well, you called me and you asked me, I'm now telling you, you're a head shliach, that this is what you should do. Which I was quite taken by the authority. I needed something at that moment. And so I did. I sat down, and he said to put in the letter that I am asking for an answer. So I wrote in my letter to the Rebbe, I wrote down that the head shliach had actually said that this is what I should put in. I don't want to be overly chutzpahdik. And so I followed Rabbi Groner's instructions, and so I opened an Idras Kodesh. And I'm not going to go into it, but on the page there were 4 letters, and each letter addressed a different aspect of what I wrote about. It didn't give me any comfort. Fine. It's nice, but I still have a problem. I still have multiple problems on my hand, which in a matter of 2 days, the biggest problem was sorted. And when a shliach says the biggest problem, of course, was financial. And if I told you just how that happened, you'd be like, wow! One of the letters, the Rebbe writes to never forget what the Friedrich Rebbe would instruct people that Hashem says, Liya Kesav Liya Zov, and therefore you have nothing to worry about, and I don't want to hear about the fact of the problems with the money. And literally 2 days later, Liya Kesav Liya Zov, down to the $100 of what we needed, and what we needed was well over, it was a 6-figure sum, and to that closest $100 was sorted within a matter of 48 hours. Good, beautiful. You know how easy it is to ride high on a mofus like that? It's easy. And not only can you ride high, but you can ride so high that you actually believe that you're a believer until the next round of sorrows comes along. And that's how it works. That's how it works for me. It's why I'm not big into sharing stories, because stories don't do it for me. People have stories, and I've had stories, and I've got to give a korban that I have seen nisim in what I do. But for whatever reason, they don't get me to the place of bitachon and amunah that I should have. So I share that because for me, I can hear all the nice stories. It's not going to answer the question of what is. The fact is that we're now saying Kapitel Kuf Yud Ches, and in 32 years we're at Kuf Nun. So for that, I don't go to stories. The Rebbe's Maimorim are very different. The Rebbe's Maimorim are very succinct. The Rebbe's Maimorim are very clear. And the Rebbe's Maimorim, in some ways, the most confronting and the least romantic of all the Rabbeim. What do I mean? You open L'Kutei Torah, you go on a trip. You whip out your surfboard and you go. And if you learn for an hour, 2 hours, you'll end up all over the place. It's so easy to be frum. After learning a Maimon L'Kutei Torah, you can daven, you can do yichudim basically if you're foolish enough to think that you can. It's amazing. You learn a Maimon from the Rabbi Rashab, same thing, and I've spoken about this before. It's also incredible that the Rabbi Rashab dissects, and the Rabbi does 2 things. A, he doesn't dissect, he assumes you know it. He doesn't dissect, and number 2 is that the Rebbe talks Avodah. And the Rebbe talks Avodah not in the term of Avodah, but the Rebbe usually is highly, highly prescriptive. Recently, I was learning Marvel of the Fumid Rava of I'm not one of these guys that knows dates, but I don't have that many Mamorim under my belt, so I generally can remember what I've learned. And the Rabbi talks about Simcha. He doesn't just talk about Simcha. The Rabbi talks about Simcha, but I'm focusing on this moment because it's fresh to me. The Rabbi talks about Simcha and the importance of Simcha, and I'm learning this moment because I naturally have a tendency towards a more shchayra attitude. And so I'm learning this moment looking for the elixir to happiness, that where's the Rebbe's prescription to happiness? How am I going to finish this moment? I'll never be nervous again, I'll never be angry again, I'll never be depressed again. And it's not in there. The Rebbe doesn't tell you how, the Rebbe just tells you what. And generally when I learn Chassidus, I like to look for a how. I'm not interested in being told what, I want a how. Combine that with Vatat the whole idea of Kosas Lamoir and Mesiras Nefesh, and that the Mesiras Nefesh of Golus is greater than the Mesiras Nefesh of death. That's just such an incredible concept, because if I had to put it in really brutal Melbourne terms, it means that living in Golus as a year is more of a reason to do a memorial night and a more exciting thing in some ways than the Mesiras Nefesh that our community celebrates, which is the Mesiras Nefesh of the war and the Mesiras Nefesh of death. That the Mesiras Nefesh of living is greater. That's what the Rebbe says. And then you look in the Pesach Maimorim, anything where the Rebbe quotes Kinei Seischa from Micha, whether that's the Dibra Maskell or it comes up in another Maimon, the Rebbe will talk about that the Hiskalos in the future is going to be fantastic, and it will be greater Hiskalos than now, but the Hamshachas Elokus of Golus is greater than the Hamshachas Elokus of Mashiach. And so if you string these things together, the Rebbe is very, very clear. There's no hows, there's just do's. If you start asking questions and looking for answers, you'll find the most incredible answers, or you might not find any answers to the questions that are being asked. If it's a good question, you'll find an answer. If it's a silly question, there are no answers. But the Rebbe doesn't address the questions. The Rebbe doesn't address what will happen in 32 years. The Rebbe doesn't address how to answer your questions of bitachon or emunah. In English, there are learn chefs, but that's not what the Rebbe's point is. The Rebbe's point in these Maimorim is very, very simple. What day is today? Monday? Tomorrow's Tuesday. What are you doing tomorrow? I don't care what's happening in 30 years. And if you start thinking about what's going to happen in 30 years, you're completely missing the point of your Avodah, of our Avodah. Our Avodah is not to worry about what's going to happen in 30 years. Our Avodah is not meant to be is not to worry what's going to happen next year. Our Avodah is to live moment to moment, day by day, shlichus by shlichus, opportunity by opportunity, mitzvah to mitzvah. That's it. And as soon as your mind goes beyond that, it's not part of the Rebbe's instruction. The whole idea of Golus is that we naturally worry about how it will work within the context of the Helam and the context of the Cheshach. And what the Rabbi says is stop worrying about the Helam, stop worrying about the Cheshach, just do the Hamshacha, just do the Hamshacha. And you might say it's very hard. Comes along the Rebbe in Vatat and he says, yeah, it's hard. It's actually, it must be hard because it's greater than the Mesiras Nefesh of dying. Greater than the Mesiras Nefesh of dying is the Mesiras Nefesh of living. So if you're like me, and you wonder what's going to happen in 32 years, and it's easier to pontificate, and it's easier to think about it, and it's easier to be depressed by it, and it's easier to worry, and it's easier to say what will be, and what will be, and what will be, and that there's been Yeridus Hadoros. There's no Yeridus Hadoros, it's just that the Aveda changes from day to day. I'll finish with a final idea that doesn't relate, I hope it doesn't relate to anyone here. So there is a trend, and you ask any of the Moland, and anyone who's a rabbi of a shul or a shliach, or anyone who's involved with people who aren't religious, and there is a trend for parents to not give their sons a bris. And if they do, it will be with a top surgeon when the surgeon's ready, somewhere between 30 and 60 days, because they're not going to touch a baby less than that. And that's if they do it. That's if it's a really brutal parent. But many parents, it's just, they want to be, if they want a bris, they can choose to have a bris when they're older. I didn't like what happened when I saw my first son have a bris, and all these excuses. And the people who I hear this from have gone to Jewish day schools, and sometimes their parents say, how's this happening, that I forked out X hundreds of thousands of dollars for my child to go to a Jewish day school, and for them to renege on bris. How could it happen? I don't know how it happens. I can read the surveys and I can pontificate and I can explain that you didn't do much at home to support hundreds of thousands of dollars. We can give all these theories, but it's not going to help now the child having the bris. And we can sit around a Shabbos table and work out what's wrong and this dimension, that dimension, and we're missing the point. The Avodah of this generation is bris milah. Yeah, I know it's weird that that's what we're up to. People gave their kids bris in communist Russia and Nazi ghettos and all that, and it's never been an issue since Bayis Sheni. We haven't really addressed this issue. Well, guess what? That's the issue now for many people. We shouldn't minimize what the Avodah is. Just because it was easy for a previous door doesn't mean it's not a legitimate Avodah today. And I'm talking about bris, but I don't mean bris at all. I'm talking about people I'm from, but I'm not really talking about them. I'm talking about us. And whatever our struggle with bris, that's our Avodah today. And even if it wasn't Avodah for the previous generation, and even if it's not Avodah for the older people sitting in this room, anyone who's older than me is older. Even if it's not, and anyone who doesn't relate to me because they're different, we all have our Avodah. And the Rebbe says that's your Kosis Lamor, that's the Mesiras Nefesh of Golus. And now is the moment to confront it, because now, if this is the Mashiach, now is the last moment that we have to be Mamshech O. I don't get what any of those words mean. To be a chassid of the Rebbe is to not worry whether you know what those words mean or not. To be a chassid of the Rebbe is, the hiskashus is that I have to put one foot forward, whether I've got nice stories or not, whether I'm a maimin or not, whether I believe or not, not important. And you get caught up in whether or not you're a maimin or Baal B'tochen, it's already a distraction from the Avodah. You can sit and worry about it for 6 hours, or you can go out and put on tefillin with someone in that 6 hours. Which one's going to achieve more? That you think you've got to the core of the issue of your own navel gazing as to whether or not you've got a mun or not, or whether you put on tefillin with someone. The Rebbe says it's very clear. You put on that tefillin, I don't care what went through your head. And so I'm only addressing whoever's saying Kuf Yud Ches tomorrow and is worrying, what's going to be? What's going to be is you'll say a capital till, and that's what's going to be. Yeah, but what will be is what will be tomorrow afternoon. You're going to ride on one of the vans. Are you going to get in touch with a colleague in a workplace? You just worry what will be in 6 hours. That's all we have to do. It's all the Rebbe worried about. It's as far as we're concerned for us. Not all, but a main focus. So l'chaim, that we focus on the now, that we live in the present, that we actually believe that Mashiach can come Karafayim, and that we not worry about whether Mashiach could come in 32 years and that the trajectory doesn't look good. And if we have a bit more emunah that Mashiach can come, and we have a bit more kayach to actually get over our own fears and our own inhibitions, and we actually do something, then Taka Mashiach will come l'chaim.
Do it now.
What's your struggle? What's your avoid? Your struggle? Next one.
Hashem,
time to time. Mention one of the Rebbe's main themes. They say the most quoted word is Toidim Lashon Eira. The obvious one is Mashiach, and the one that stands out all the time, of course, is the Inyan of Ahavas Yisrael. The Rebbe's very, very first statement. The Rebbe said that everyone likes to hear a wild statement by inauguration. I'm paraphrasing, but that's what the Rebbe basically said by Kabbalas Anasiyas. That when it's in Rome, or rather in the Lashon HaTorah, you do as and in America they like to hear wild statements. So I'm going to say a wild statement that if someone that thinks they can love Hashem and love His Torah, but not love a Yid, it's basically has it all wrong. And if you talk love a Yid, you'll end up, I don't know why it works the other way, but very interesting. The Rebbe says, but if you love a Yid, you'll end up loving Hashem and loving His Torah. And then the Rebbe begins his first Maimer, and the whole Teichen, well, obviously the Teichen are the Dira B'Tachtoinim, but the way the Rebbe brings Dira B'Tachtoinim to light, and the mashal that he gives is obviously Yisrael. And in a very unusual way to bring down stories, and not some stories, Kama V'Chama stories in a Maimer, which is extremely unusual, is Vaita, stories of Ahavas Yisrael. And that was the Rebbe's whole message through all the Rebbe's years. And the last that we heard with our Fleishika ears, that we heard the Rebbe's whole Vayakel, the Vayakel Sikh, was all about Ahavas Yisrael. And that's what and in fact the Rebbe said, perhaps Lipskier or whatever you want to call this, but the Rebbe said that they asked the Tzemach Tzedek when he wasn't feeling well, what's going to be the future? And the Tzemach Tzedek responded, so there's doch the kinder, and besides the kinder, there's the Achdus of Chassidim will bring us to the Geula. The Achdus of Chassidim will keep Chassidus alive. And the Rebbe actually mentioned that the first Inyan is not Negeya, the first answer to the Tzemach Tzedek is not Negeya, and what will keep us all together is the Achdus of Chassidim. And the Rebbe has, we mentioned this before, but it's so black and white, it's a shtickle scary, where the Rebbe speaks as we're going to the second day of Pesach, we start Sfiras HaOmer, but that also comes with a shtickle price tag. And Sfiras HaOmer, besides the beautiful aspect of it, and of working on ourselves to reach Matan Torah, there's a constant reminder, something else. We have other minhagim as well besides Avodah, as Pashat Inyan of Shtikal Avelos. And that's the idea that 24,000, which is all of the Talmidim that Rabbi Akiva built. Now, totally Maimon and Muskim was such a beautiful story, and it's a Poil Mamish, or a Poil Mamish. A friend of mine, Aryeh Schottenstein, gave a in YU would give a Shir Tanya. And one time, I think it was YU or it was Shiva University, whatever, was giving a Shir Tanya to some Chavra. And it was exam season. So there was one, everyone was busy, they weren't interested in a Shir. Again, just a Maimon HaMuzger. Sheva Maimon HaMuzger were the Rosh quotes that when they wanted to make different Shiurim, also on a practical side, they want to make different shiurim. So someone wrote to the Rebbe that he'll make maybe for the college students, he'll make a shir Motzei Shabbos. And the Rebbe responded, Yesh lahem alas is Motzei Shabbos Kodesh. So it was exam time, and one student said, if Aryeh comes, he'll show up. So he's busy, he was in 7th learning, and he didn't know what to do, and it happened to be by the oil. So he writes into the Rebbe, amongst other things, he writes, I don't know what to do, of course learning is important, but it's not such a practical idea. When he walks out of the oil, there's the video playing, and the Rebbe is speaking about I think what Rabbi Akiva said, Hamidu Talmidim Harbe. Rabbi Akiva is the one that said You should a lot of Talmidim. And the Rebbe goes on to say that even Rabbi Akiva had 24,000 chassidim. He already had Harbi. He had 24,000 Talmidim. What's he? But he says, but if you could have added one Ein and Ein Tzigim Talmud, you didn't reach Harbi yet because there's more to conquer. One more student you could reach. Then he didn't reach Harbi yet. And it was he got his answer, but that was unfortunately Rabbi Akiva lost most of his students to a terrible tragedy. And the Rebbe brings to light, in only the way the Rebbe can, to really take apart the story and really be behind the story. The Rebbe says it's mamash mamal arai. Out of all Talmidim, of all Tanoim, Rabbi Akiva, which by now worldwide, Lubavitch and not Lubavitch, a kindalach know that Rabbi Akiva, v'yahavta l'reicha kamecha, Rabbi Akiva omer zeh klal gadol b'Torah. Every child knows it. So out of all Tanoim, all teachers, who's the one that they had students pass away from fighting and killing each other? Rabbi Akiva, the Baal HaMaimer, Zeh Klal Gadol b'Torah. This was his verse. This is what he kocht in. Out of all students, this is Rabbi Akiva's students. Maval Arai. Shocking. How could this even be? I think most of us, all of us, are very familiar with the Rebbe's answer. That the Rebbe said, Fakir. They were such devoted students. And when they saw another Talmud, they all 24,000 students, means 24,000 days. Each one had their own opinion. And Kan Makim Lahoy Rabbi, I heard this from Rabbi Gorn, I forgot B'Shem who, Moira de Gavard, where he says, I forgot how he quoted, but he said, the word where it says, Kishem She'ein Partzufein Shava is Kachen De'esein Shava. Just like their faces are not similar, so their opinions are not similar. What's the mushroom? First of all, it's not so hard to figure out what pshat Ein De'esein Shava. Their opinions are not similar. You need a mushroom. What's the mushroom? Just like their faces are different. So he said that's exactly the point. You don't walk down the street and see someone and you say, that's a wrong face. Your face is wrong. You never see, it's not an expression you use on a face. You say your face is different. That's a very different face. That's a face is they can't have a wrong face. It's a face. You can't have a wrong face. And that's the Indian. They are saying Shabbat, which is this itself, you should spend a few minutes thinking about. There's actually no such thing as a wrong opinion. Because what the person is, where he's coming from, what their perspective is, and why they're saying this, you're not going to win him over by saying, you're so wrong, you're talking about your stupid opinion. It's not a stupid opinion. It's a very wise opinion. He's coming from experience, he's coming from his perspective, and what he sees, he's not wrong, he really sees it this way. Al Kaponim, getting back to the Rebbe's point with Talmidei Rabbi Akiva, and the Rebbe said that because they had such Ahavas Yisrael, they saw another chassid, they saw another Talmid Rabbi Akiva doing something wrong in their opinion. I looked from Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva meant this, and I see another Talmud doing fakir. Chmano Litzlan. If I was a Potz Misnagid, I would say, Kushatach is, I'm lying. Ooh, just kidding. If you are Shmendrin, the World Wide Web. So you'd say, good. You want right? Like the way the Misnagid takes it out in Russia. Yeah, you look like a nigga, no problem. You don't want to be a chassid, get out of here. But I'm a chassid. Rabbi Akiva says, I see a Jew that's not behaving the way Rabbi Akiva wants. Give him a clap. If I care about my fellow Jew, I have to teach him what to do. And the Rebbe said, that's all nice. But where they got it all wrong was, you're entitled to your opinion. You actually may be right. But first of all, it's one of 24,000 opinions. And it happens to be that none of them are wrong. Oh, how can it be wrong? Because he sees in a certain way, maybe he needs to be corrected. But he's not wrong in his opinion. And that needs to be, and that's where we all go wrong. And it always, for me, one of the most bitter sikhs growing up in Crown Heights, for me this is one of the most bitter sikhs, where the Rebbe is saying black and white, Yidalach, Kinderlach, Sidemlach. Jeder eine schreit for the Rebbe's Kovid. You're ripping each other's necks apart. The Rebbe made this. It's so black and white. It's not something you have to learn out. It's so black and white. The problem is that you're allowed to have different opinions. But the minute you lost respect, the Rebbe made this, the Rebbe made that. We need to do this. You both have a good opinion, and there's different reasons. Maybe I'm more Shchayr, I'm more Levoina, and maybe you're in this world, that world. You're not wrong. Maybe you're in Shluchus, you have this opinion. You're out there in the back. Maybe you're in Zal, you have this opinion. It's all very nice. And maybe one of you are a little bit more correct than the other. And you're welcome to discuss and debate. But the moment they're hit, you destroyed it all. I was brought up in Khan, Siv Hashem as a bracha. And I witnessed things firsthand. First of all, those that know, they try to bring different theories. The Rebbe's Gesund dropped drastically every Friday. Drastically. Shabbos, this, that. Pashat, if you want to say Begashmis, all Rahman al all the Lashon Hara and Pashkevil and always come out in front. What are you doing showing in a chap all the Yidden? Friday now, when the Chassid comes to show, what else should he read? All the Shmutz. So all the Drek was printed, on Friday. They asked, this is famous, you could ask the nephews of Rabbi Goren, the Rebbe's Gesund dropped drastically every Friday. When Chassidim are together, it's a break. The Rebbe's Gesund, etc., etc. And when Chassidim ripped each other apart, Rahman al-Islam, and guess what? What's most painful is you watched families fall apart. You watched everything fall apart. The infrastructure, Rahman al-Islam, that the Rebbe set up in 40 years, Chas v'Shalom to say fall apart, but very, very shaky. Kinder lach auf die Gassen. The bottom are not respected. V'chulu. Because when two parents fight and each one's going to curse out the other parent in front of the kid, and each one thinks, the kid's going to go on my side. I'll show the kid my opinion. And of course, the kid ends up disrespecting both parents. Beidim Mishragoyim, you have no decency, no respect. You're both crazy. And when each one, I saw this firsthand, that all these people fighting for the Rebbe's cover. The Rebbe repeated this story. Shah the Melech Shlav, yeah, Shah. The Rebbe repeated as a joke, because people were trying to make quiet by the Fabrengen. The famous joke where it was noisy in the palace and everyone started screaming, Shah the Melech Shlav, Shah, the king's trying to sleep. The Rebbe joke about this on the square for trying to keep quiet over here. But each one is Shah, the Rebbe's covered. Each one's breaking each other's heads for the Rebbe's covered. And I see Kinderlach, I shouldn't judge, but I see firsthand, and I know which families they come from. These are the Tatas Gevens, Chassidish Yidden that were ripping each other's apart for the Rebbe's covered. And the Kinderlach say, this Zu Torah, Zu Chassidus, this means it's kashrus. To cut them up by every Shabbos table becomes an operation table where we dissect people and take them apart and make operations and pull out, and this is my Shabbos table. This is Torah, this is the Geshmak of Chassidus. I don't want to have to do with it. This is Chassidus, and this is Torah, and this is Halacha, where each one bashes the other one, and you destroy the infrastructure of a community. The Rebbe told, I heard this. I believe I heard this directly from him, Yisrael Shevder. I'm not saying anything. I'm not making any statements at all. I'm not sorry, but every approach we take, you have to be so delicate when you're dealing with the achdus of all of us, and v'chulu. The Rebbe once told Yisrael Shemtov, he said, you're not allowed to put out a pashkevil. And then he said, a pashkevil doesn't mean that you didn't sign your name. It means any statement you put out, b'chlal. Who gave you, what are you putting out a statement for? Do you ask the Rav? A pashkevil says, Yederein macht a statement. The Rebbe told Yisrael, I think I heard it from him himself. He said, you say something, you have to ask God. There's a Torah approach. I'm not making any statements at all. I'm saying you have to be so careful and delicate. I watched single-handedly, and I don't like to use the word victim, but I've watched this, and those who are my age, not the older guys I think that they're fighting for the Rebbe, those who are my age saw this, and some are here, friends and age like around the table, know exactly what I'm talking about, that mishpachas and kinderlach that fell apart. And it's something that you have to be so. This is the Rebbe's top theme, and the Rebbe said it. Schwarz, Avais, Kovid, Zebezedis. This guy's wrong, that guy's wrong. It's all true. But nothing will withstand the achdus of a community, the achdus of Chassidim Lach. this is the only thing that will keep us till Mashiach comes, and there's no two ways about it. So, just whatever, just keep this very, very much in conscious. And the more ahava is in your family, and the more ahava is, we're gonna. You're worried about Chassidus Chabad, you're worried about Kovid Chabad, you're worried about Chabad, because I've heard from Kama V'Chama that they're not right now. They're not interested in B'chol Zeh. So this is Chabad. And again, this is garnished the tone with which I'm just saying a certain approach that has to be reconsidered and carefully approached, because it's not just an Indian of we're trying to do. We're dealing with the life and core of a community, and we don't have only to. We saw it by the Shenste und die Beste, and I have friends that have no interest in all this because their fathers were big jihads for the Torah, and big jihads for the Chassidus, and big jihads for the Rebbe, and the results were not. Now, yeah.
How's the baby doing? What are you calling her? Managing it, good. Was I good? Saw your mother walking her on Sunday. Beautiful.
Yeah.
you give it. I'm taking it home.
What? No, I'm talking from experience. I'm not telling you anything else. I don't argue with you.
You are giving the Nikas You are giving the Nikas That's what you've done here. That's what you just did. You gave the Nikas What?
The whole thing is
I can make a joke now. That's why they've got kids who fly out. That's why they've got kids who fly out. You're right. That's right. 100% right. Because they're doing things which they didn't ask a Rav. They didn't get sucked in for a Rav, and that's why the kids are flying out. What? What's this?
Yosef!
What do you want? What's the fair one?
What's your address?
My address? Turning the sound off.
Listen, give it to me.
No, you argue privately because I respect you, because I respect what you've done, and I respect it, and I'll discuss with you privately.
No problem.
I brought him here to make you more relaxed.
Time.
He's not relaxed. I see next to you, that's why.
I just want to say one thing. Today being in Aleph this. David Raskin all the time used to say is Aveda Matzvei and Aveda Mazulas. One of the things you sometimes forget, you don't forget, because it's Shikha and with Torah, the many different inyonim, that as I mentioned at the very beginning, when the Rebbe spoke about people want to be greater than me and Nachas etc. Many majority of times, you would see that the Rebbe's Gemon Poshet, learning, noch mehr learning, noch mehr Kvisen, etc. There was never a time, no matter how important the Tzoyim and everything was, the Rebbe said, this is Chutz L'Sidra Yeshiva. How many times the Rebbe said Chutz L'Sidra Yeshiva? And every time you wanted to do something, they have to rent to Shuslan, Holos HaYeshiva. The whole idea that Bochum, versteht sich, Bochum ist schon zu reden, by feeling the light and people who do things, the achrayus of realizing that does not diminish the responsibility that every single person has, the sign of Avedis HaTfilah, the sign of K'visi Torah, and signs of Nosasorchem and Tzedakah, and all the inyanim that we have to do, which is mamish totally shaykh to us, not shaykh to anybody else.
No one can force anybody to learn 3 Prakim Rambam every day. No one can force anybody to learn Maimorim every day, to finish the Shizedra every week. Nobody can do that. Nobody. It's up to the person himself, and to the learning page, Mamalav, Mongay, that, you know, this is like Kimmel Negadeno. And the Rebbe wanted Porsche Begashman. He saw the Rebbe, I always tell the story. The events of Chastera, everyone knows, in my years, I remember. But the Rebbe finished Fabrengen, Chastera before Akofis, usually about 11:45. We started about 9, usually about 11:30, 11:45. The Rebbe went upstairs, and my day, I remember there was 10, 15 minutes the most, I don't remember more. And they would then come down to Akofis, and those 10 minutes they had to make the, the pyramids with Alamaisit and going. So there was a certain Gamanzal Marafu Shleimer, and he wanted to see what is the Rebbe's door was always open since Torah night, the cloud. And he ran after the Rebbe to see what does the Rebbe do in those 15 minutes, 10, 15 minutes, what does the Rebbe do? So Mamash ran, it was Hadakov, and then Label, Yamin. And he said he maybe was a minute behind the Rebbe was going into his room. Maybe a minute. What was the Rebbe doing? The Rebbe opened the Sefer right away. People learn. He said he was bold over there. Just for 3.5 hours, the word is that every single, I'll tell you another story, an unbelievable story. Is when the Rebbe used to get a Bichur Chassidus, they used to bring from Russia, from whatever they brought, they found. He said the Rebbe would take the Bichur, and for the next 2-3 hours he couldn't talk to them. There were thousands of things that had to happen. The Rebbe was in a different world, completely different world. The Rebbe's Indian as a Shochad, the Rosh says all the time, there's never a Rebbe with a Zingim Mont, was a learning, Laviris Hatfil, and everything. Then noch a Bichur Chassidus, and noch a Bichur Chassidus, and noch a Bichur Chassidus gedruckt, and noch a Bichur Chassidus gedruckt. One after the other. I mean, you take a look at the day. I'm all good sight. When I came to Lubavitch, first Shabbos, I was in 77. It was Tov Shechab Gimel, Shabbos Prat, Kopman Akbol. I stayed by Beryl Chaim. Vanished by Beryl Chaim, my Motim Chaim. And I walked in the morning, and he was learning to look at the Torah. It wasn't a look at the Torah printed in America. It was the Torah printed in Bucking in the DP camps. It was what I look at the Torah in those years. Then all of a sudden, you want to swim and sit this one after the other. There's plenty. So the Rebbe said the famous should start Megist. The Rebbe doesn't want him to be on the shelf. The Rebbe wants portions to learn it and take it seriously. The Rebbe is almost a portion of learning them. The mitzvah Rebbe says, the Rebbe didn't mind and kiyu zenish. Everybody knows the famous story that the Shver al Mashon once went into the Frierdiker Rebbe. The Frierdiker Rebbe asked him, he said, Daven Barich Samol. So he came out and he told him Shmuel Levitman. Shmuel for being the whole night. He says, in Gemanat HaMishpocha. Gemanat is in Ashtichas, and then Moses does everything else. But the Rebbe asked him, did Daven Barichas? He says, Daven Shvagesach. So this demanded something. So this wanted something. Therefore, we have to take everything the Rebbe said, you have to take seriously. And Rodson is stuck in his Chalkis. The Rebbe wanted everything. There was nothing the Rebbe didn't stop. J.J. Hecht used to have a Yechagor, they lost the Schlafen, they lost the Shander Schlafen. The Rebbe wanted Arbeit. By me, it's the Arbeit. And that's what we have to do, sign Aveda Matzmei, and all the different things, from Pesach, etc. Well, this is what's, what's the answer? Just can't say it's a bit kashi, and I'll look it up sometime. That's what's the answer. Chaim, that shall help him. Skashis, the Rebbe said, Chaim Farah, the Rebbe Vivet, when I'm a Kusha, so Slana, Vasichla, and Nigla, and Chassidus. That's how I become a Kusha, my various Morim Shali, and use my Paulas, and I them is a Kusha, these times, Chaim.
Chaim. Rabbi Lipskier.
And if I say it now, so everyone can hear it. If it goes out of my mouth, everyone can hear it. If not, even one person won't
That's a fact of living in Sydney.
סודה או לא? Lipskier, Lipskier
was Grafika. It's next chance. I didn't want the spot. Still on the spot, but we've got a little talent about it. You should do it, for what's next, initiate. Why not? So what he's
talking about the kashering and nefesh abamis over here, or kalim? Which
Iris of the kalim. He's asked
which kashering is
the kalim or the iris?
Kashering kalim. What's kalim?
Kalim's in an hecher. Hecher mocker the iris. He's a kind of...
Oh, yeah, I think you better tell me.